Hi guys, so a number of you in the comments of the previous Burning Hydra video asked, can Uber Lilith be done without the need to have all of the mythical uniques? Because some people are struggling to get the Harlequins and the Tyraels might. You can get one quite easily through doing your season journeys and farming the resplendent sparks, but getting two of them for some people is proving tricky. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show exactly the same build as what we had before, but we're going to do it without a Tyraels might on. So all I've done here is I've taken my Tyraels might off. I've put in a Raiment of the Infinite because this just gives us more damage. I haven't even masterworked this. This is a level 1 Raiment of the Infinite. It does have a greater affix of glass cannon, so that's just more damage. It's got a maximum roll of intelligence, so that's more damage as well. So instead of defense and movement speed, we're pretty much just going straight up for damage here. Same amount of intelligence through gems, and the aspect here doesn't make much difference. This was just a really quick replacement I could put in to demonstrate that it could be done. And just to show evidence, we've got maximum armor. We've got fully count resistances, so the Tyraels might resistances here aren't even required unless you're trying to cap over your maximum resistances. The reason these are so high is just because your intelligence is so high. I'm sitting at 2,750 intelligence, so I understand that is a lot, but that's just because I've got intelligence everywhere and I'm masterworks. So this is achievable. Anywhere about 2,400 you'll be fine, and everything else is near on exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and do the fight. The one thing to note is we do have quite a lot less movement speed with this item on because we lose 27.2% here. So this does make the fight slightly trickier because you need to avoid the ghosts at the end. But if you do the fight well, it is doable, no problem. But we should kill her faster with this. So the other thing I've done as well is I've equipped a Fortitude potion, because this is what I would recommend to people who aren't as accustomed to her mechanics. This will give you another 20% life. So where we've sacrificed some defense, we can just put an extra bit of life in here to try and counter out some of that. And this is something you can make from level 50, and it doesn't cost too much resources, so everyone can have one of these. You could more than happily put in an attack speed potion as well, but you really don't need the damage here, guys. Okay guys, so we're going to go and start the fight. Once she's activated, we're going to place a firewall down. We're going to jump on her to activate the lightning activations from the Elementus Glyph and Tyraels ring, and then we're just going to place all our Hydras and skills down and try and burn her down as quickly as possible. We should be faster because we've got the Raiment of Infinite damage, which we didn't have before. And then once she's at 0%, which she will be automatically pretty much, we're just going to have to play the mechanics here. So make sure you're not body blocked by these, rotate around with the triangle, and she actually died there immediately after that stage, which is quite unusual but nice for us. So no debuff stacks, we're into stage 2. Now, we're going to sit here and place our firewall down, the same as before, and our Hydras in preparation. When she spawns, we're going to place a firewall down. We're going to TP onto her and go over the other side. The difficult thing here is we've lost the movement speed from Tyraels might, so outrunning the ghost can be a little bit tricky unless you put movement speed somewhere else in the build. So I'm going to have to use my evades to my advantage here. We've crowd controlled her here, so now we're just going to wait for her to spawn up on the top platform, where it will start burning up and the ghost will start spawning. So we'll have to start moving now. And as you'll see, I'll be using the evades to my advantage to try and avoid some of these ghosts. And I'll be running at different angles to try and avoid them. So we've managed to avoid those. So now we're going to come over to this side of the platform. And we're going to do exactly the same, all 3 stages, to try and avoid the ghosts. You don't want to get hit by these because they put debuffs on you. And then we're just going to rotate around here. Come over to the 3rd platform, rotate round. We're going to use ice armor here just to give me extra armor. I'm going to teleport over here because that just helps get us away from the ghosts. We're just going to avoid the ghosts here. We're going to place down our Hydras. We're going to activate our shields just to make sure nothing kills us, and then she should just die. And there you go, guys. There is the Uber Lilith on the Burning Hydra build without a Tyraels might on. Yes, it had a Harlequins. You could replace the Harlequins, but getting the Harlequins is achievable. Okay guys, since the last Burning Hydra video, I've had a lot of questions in the comments as to why I've used some of the affixes I have and why I haven't done things a different way. So I went away and tested a bunch of stuff, and it turns out that some of your questions were very good ones, because it turns out there is ways to improve this build, and there are some interactions happening which I did not expect the way to work the way they are. And as a result of this, we've managed to improve the build by about 2 times worth in damage. So thank you very much, everyone in the community. I really appreciate that, because we've managed to push this build further. And I just wanted to run through a couple of these so that I can reflect to you the updates that have been made in the build planner and the reasoning behind the reasoning behind things changing. So the first thing I wanted to address was, I was asked why did I only have 1 rank in Hydra damage in Hydra, and it seems to scale the burning damage. Now, my initial testing when I tested this at the very low ranks didn't show enough of a damage increase for it to really seem obvious, but in the higher ranks it does seem to be fairly noticeable. So in the original build I only had 1 point in Hydra, and the reason for this being, this build is based on the burn damage, and the burn damage here comes from this node here, Summon Hydra, and this is supposed to make the burn damage be based on 100% of the base damage of Hydra. Now, the base damage is a number that is assigned to the skill and you would not expect to be manipulated regardless of what happens. So let's say Hydra has 100 base damage and you've got 9 ranks in Hydra. The way I would have expected it to work, and as I've seen in previous builds before that I've played on other classes, is that the base damage will be 100 and then it gets multiplied by however many ranks, and that would still mean the base damage is still the same, it's just got a separate multiplier in there to get to your final skill damage, which is then multiplied by your main stat multiplier and any other multipliers you get. In practice, however, when we put extra ranks into Hydra here, the burn damage does actually go quite significantly. So that tells me that either the tooltip here is incorrect, or the way that's interacting with the base damage is the base damage is being manipulated here. So to test this, I'm just going to take 4 points out of here, so we're going to go back to 1 rank. I've taken out all lucky hit crowd control effects so that creeping death is not going to get activated, so that's why I've taken off all the gear here. I've taken 2 points out of crippling flame to test this, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and reset a boss dummy, and we're just going to see what the number comes to both before the ranks and after to demonstrate the difference in damage. So this is the before. So we're just going to sit here and wait. Once we get to 50% life, the first part of engulfing flames will kick in. So you'll see this dot damage number here jump up, and this is the only one we overly care about. So there you go, there was the first jump, and when that's fully filled, it jumps again. So it's gone to about 2.5, 2.6 million. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for that to finish, and then we're going to go reset the dummy. And then we're going to come over and do exactly the same test, and we'll see 2 jumps again when it gets to 50% life and when the rest of the health bar is filled with dot damage. And before we do that, we are going to put 4 ranks into Hydra. And we're going to place down the Hydra, and we're just going to sit here and see what that number comes to. It went to about 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 million before. We'd expect it to go quite a lot higher this time. So there's the first bump, second bump, and as you can see, that's gone quite a lot higher, 3.2 million. So in reality, those extra ranks in Hydra have pushed up the damage about 25-30%, which is pretty significant. So the build planner has been updated to reflect this. To make up the 4 points, we took out 1 point from crippling flames, because 2 points will be enough if we're healthy all the time, which we're aiming to be on this build. We took 2 points out of warmth, so that does make you slightly squishier. However, with all the items we normally have 6 to 9 ranks in here anyway, which in reality is more than enough to keep you alive. It's pretty insane, actually. It gives you between 6 and 9% extra healing of your maximum life per burning enemy. So as long as you're burning enemies, you're still going to heal immediately. And then we took out 1 point here from Align the Elements, so that we could make up the 4 points. And 2 points in here will be enough, because as long as your barrier is up, this doesn't tend to get reset, so you'll still be benefiting from the full damage reduction anyway. So there's your 4 points of Hydra. The second thing I want to run over is the question of why have I used fire damage over time rather than Hydra damage? Now, this is a good question. The reason I originally chose fire damage over time is that absolutely will work with burning damage. The burning damage here gets multiplied by your legendary node in your paragon tree, and there's a couple other small modifiers. So when I take this ring off, you'll see it goes down to 1,198%. If I put on the Hydra damage one, it goes up to 1,351. This other ring has got another 88.5% fire damage over time on it, and when I equip that, you'll see that it goes up by about 170, which is just shy of double the extra fire damage over time on this ring. And the reason for that being is because it, as I said, in the Paragon node, the Burning Instinct node gives you an 80% multiplier on that number specifically. So this does not interact with Hydra damage, I don't believe, because that manipulates the burning damage stats individually. And there's a couple others as well. I think you get to about 88% multiplier, worked it out to be. Those will not interact with Hydra damage. So that was my original thinking, because you're losing quite a bit of damage there. However, that does still leave you short of the additive damage here, just shy of it. So if you go 88% on 88.5%, you're probably going to get to about 145, 150% additive. If you get a maximum Hydra roll, that does go to 181.3. I didn't think Hydra damage would interact with it because, as I said, the burning damage was supposed to be based on the base damage of Hydra. But now that we've ascertained from the previous test that it actually does change with ranks in Hydra and the base damage is being manipulated here, I thought it would probably be quite prudent to go and test Hydra again, which manipulates this number, to see if that affects it. So to do this, we've got two almost identical rings. The Hydra damage is rolled maximum on this one. The fire damage over time is nearly minimum here. They've both got double rolls into attack speed. This one has got a crit in intelligence. It's got 22 more intelligence, so that gives it slightly more, but it's got slightly less % damage over time on it. So overall, these are pretty similar. It's about as similar as you can get for a test, other than them being identical. They've both got the same aspects on them as well, engulfing flames. So we're going to start with the fire damage over time. We're going to do exactly the same. We're going to go to the boss training dummy. We're just going to place down a Hydra, and we're just going to see what the number goes to. So we're just going to sit here and wait. We'd expect it to be similar to our previous test, but we're just going to sit here and wait and see what it goes up to. 1.4, and it goes to 3.2. 3.2 was about the cap. So now we're going to go reset the dummy. So that was with fire damage over time. And now we're going to put the Hydra damage ring on. And we're going to do exactly the same. And we would here expect this to go slightly higher than 3.2 because the additive damage is slightly higher. So we're just going to sit here and wait. So it's gone up to 900. Now it's kicked in the first. 1/2, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. Okay, so there we go. So it does go higher with Hydra damage. Probably about, I worked out, between 7 and 10%, really depending on how the build-ups worked. So the question of, is Hydra damage better, why are you not using it? My theory was sound to start with. In reality, it works differently. It does seem that Hydra damage is stronger as long as you get a good roll on it. And the benefit of Hydra damage is it will raise the very small amount of hit damage you get on this build as well, although in reality that isn't the main source of damage. So I will update the build planner to reflect this. But fire damage over time is still perfectly fine. It's probably slightly weaker, but the build will still absolutely blast with fire damage over time. I haven't tested Hydra damage on every piece of gear instead of fire damage over time on some of it. I don't know if there will be a tipping point at some point where if you have 2 items with Hydra and 2 with fire damage over time, that's actually the optimum setup. Because as we take fire damage over time, as I've said, the damage with burning multipliers from the legendary node become less worthwhile. But at least for the one item I have tested here, the Hydra damage definitely does make the damage of the build go up. Okay, that concludes the updates and improvements to the Burning Hydra build, guys, since the first video. If you haven't checked out the first video, I'd highly recommend doing so. The build still stands mostly as it was there, and the build planner has been updated to reflect the changes in this video. Both the build planner and the first video will be linked in the description below. If you've got any further questions or comments about the build or improvements you think could be made, feel free to leave a comment. I will get back to you as soon as I can. We probably won't cover this build anymore in future videos, but if we can make improvements, I'll be happy to do so. And we'll be moving on to another build after this, so look out for that build guide. And when we're ready there, see you then.